Ask HG, Episode 6, Part 7. Hello, I'm HG Tudor and welcome to another informative slice of narc knowledge. We get straight down to the questions with Sue Erting asking, will you be doing another 20 things HG loves hates? Probably. Listening to you getting aggravated at things you hate is one of my favourite things. Good for you. On your recommendation, I downloaded Music by Marshall and have really enjoyed it. Excellent. They're well worth listening to. Oh, so are you multilingual? And if so, which languages? Yes, I can speak English, French, German, Norwegian, Swedish, varying degrees. I also speak the language of love and narcissism, of course. Aurora, when you interact with a person, do you mirror that person, or do they see the construct you've built from others, or is it some combination of the two? It's a combination of the two. Dear HG, how would a narcissist mother behave on Father's Day? Well, it would depend if the spouse is in the golden period. There's a good chance that they won't be, but they might be getting a respite period. So, the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source is the father. If they're in a respite period, they will be praised, lauded, held up as being a great father, and dependent, of course, upon the age of the child, the narcissist mother may well do the role of treating father, bringing him breakfast in bed, organising a present for him, allowing him to have the day off from child caring duties and so forth, because it's Father's Day. Where the child is older, they will be expected, of course, to do things for the father themselves, and if they're an adult, then, of course, they will just get on it in the usual way and be met with supportive observations and non-spoiling behaviour. More usually, of course, because it's all about somebody else, that threatens the narcissist's control, which means that the occasion will be spoiled by the devaluing behaviour of the narcissist. And the range of devaluing behaviours really will vary and are too numerous to mention in a response here. Basically, it'd be like spoiling a birthday or spoiling Christmas Day. So, if you listen to my video, All I Want for Christmas is Fuel, I give a few, or rather a number of examples about how the day can be spoiled. You can just transpose those with regard to how Father's Day would be spoiled. Tom Muggeridge again. You say 1 in 6 people are narcissists. In your experience, how common are empaths and normals specifically? As I mentioned elsewhere, empaths 2 in 6, which means normals 3 in 6, roughly speaking. Suck for a buck. Sounds jolly decent of you, and perhaps you might want to consider raising your prices, but leaving to that one side for the moment. Okay, so I have a very serious question for you. Okay, give me a moment. Right, I've put my serious head on like Wurzel Gummidge. What character do you like most in Breaking Bad, and why? I'd have to go with Jesse because he's fucking hilarious. Also, what character do you find the most annoying and why? Excellent questions. Well, yes, I have watched Breaking Bad. I didn't watch it when it first came out, actually, although I knew about it. And I watched it all the way through about a year ago. My favourite character, although Jesse is up there, because I do find him entertaining, and this whole yo, always saying yo, amused me. Just as an aside, I had a client a number of years ago, and she booked a consultation with me, and I happened to notice that where the payment was coming from caused me to want to check that it was a legitimate payment, because it was coming from an organisation rather than from a person. And, of course, I'm aware of money laundering and such like, and therefore wanted to ensure that it was a legitimate expenditure, to ensure that there was no threat to control for me, the ultra. And in checking, I saw that the person who'd booked the consultation ran this particular organisation. So I saw a picture and I thought, well, I'm looking forward to talking to her. She's quite the honey. And when we spoke, there was a complete disconnect between the voice and the picture. And it wasn't the case that it was a false picture, because there were numerous of them. But when you see a picture of someone, you envisage a way that they might talk, don't you? And this was nowhere near. She sounded like she smoked 40 Rothmans a day and ate hot gravel for breakfast, and said, yo, 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 and after nearly every sentence, which I found quite extraordinary. And of course, her attractiveness, her physical attractiveness, somewhat melted as a consequence of this rather strange voice and delivery. But I digress. So Jesse's up there, but my favourite character has to be Saul Goodman. Yes, very entertaining, the fast-talking and slippery individual that he is, provided with maximum amusement from him. And of course, I've watched Better Call Saul as well, and I think Bob Odenkirk's excellent in that role. And if you want an HG recommendation, Bob Odenkirk was in a film called Nothing, which came out, I think, last year. Dip into it, you can get it on Amazon, and I won't tell you anything more about it. I'd rather you just went at it completely from a standing start, if you will. But Odenkirk's exceptional. He's a great actor, and you'll find it entertaining. It's not what you think it would be. So it's a slightly pop your brain at the door kind of film, but entertaining nevertheless and interesting. So have a look at that. So most I liked in Breaking Bad was Saul Goodman. The one I found the most annoying, well, actually, at times I found Walter White rather annoying, because you've got all this fucking money and you're not doing anything with it. And he really did start to get a bit up himself at times. But Skylar was the one that annoyed me the most. She's just such a whinge. And her name as well just didn't fit with who she was. So, yeah, probably I'd go with Skylar. So thank you for those questions. A little bit different than asking me about narcissism, which is fine, because you don't have to ask me about narcissism here. You can ask anything about me and what I like as well. In fact, often it's quite interesting for me to have those types of questions, so throw them my way. Justin Acosta, I have a question of my own. Good for you. And what were you asking on behalf of somebody else earlier on? Is it possible for a narcissist to skip the devaluation phase? Can a narcissist move from idealization to disengagement? Theoretically, yes, that could happen, although it'd be very unusual. More likely, when it's the intimate partner primary source, as you've mentioned in your comment, Justin, it follows the course of seduction when you're a secondary source, and then continued seduction as the embedded intimate partner primary source, then devaluation follows, and then it's either escape, the rarest outcome, disengagement, the more likely outcome, for one of 5 reasons. Listen to the 5 disengagement triggers. And in some instances, there's no escape, there's no disengagement, and it's the roller coaster ride that goes on until one of the parties finds himself in the ground. Adrienne Galotta, good thing you are across the land, best teacher ever, ever, ever. Ever, 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 ever? Ever, 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 ever. Thank you. Puss and Big Black Boots. Excellent, HG, as always. Thank you for answering my questions. I have one for the next Ask HG. What school of narcissist would, in your expert opinion, use triangulation the most? All narcissists use triangulation. There's no distinction to say one would use them more than any other. Rebody Ladybug. Hello, HG. You've mentioned your mother is an upper mid-range narcissist, and some of them are aware of what they are. Well, no, they're not. Do you think she was aware of what she was doing to you during your childhood? What, do you think she was aware that she was abusing me? Absolutely she knew that she was abusing me, but she saw that it was justified. I couldn't forgive mine until I heard wisdom talking. Ignorance should be forgiven too. I'm never going to forgive her. Retribution will be meted out against her. Of that you can rest assured. The Light in the Dark 100. Dear HG, I have heard others mention the idea of a dark empath, which I believe they're referring to an individual who has emotional empathy, however, for whatever reason, use that to abuse and manipulate. Is there such a thing as a dark empath, or are they mistaking empaths with an erosion of their empathy? Well, actually, I know I groaned at the session of the dark empath. No reflection on your question, the Light in the Dark 100. You pose good questions there. There's no such thing as a dark empath. It might be that people are mistaking the erosion of emotional empathy as a consequence of an external stressor, bringing forward narcissistic traits. More usually what it is It's an unaware mid-range narcissist styling themselves as this fake empath that's got a bit of edge to them, and that fits with their grandiosity. There's no such thing as the dark empath. Empaths aren't saints. Empaths can do bad things, but they don't do it habitually, and they certainly don't go around thinking that they're some kind of vigilante like Charles fucking Bronson. Megan Carter. HG, thanks so much for teaching us. You're welcome. Show super thanks. It's life-changing. Absolutely fucking right. Also rather amusing that a narcissistic psychopath is making the world a better place. Well, there's a certain irony there, but you're learning from the best. But as I'm learning from you, that is actually quite normal in the way the world works. Mutual benefiting and all that jazz. Anywho, get on with it. I would like to understand this better. In episode 5, part 1, you said that a person should go no contact with a child that is a narcissist. How? Their own child. Well, what I did actually explain, that obviously you can't do so with a child where you've got a legal responsibility, because then the law will come pay you a visit and you'll be up shit creek. However, with an adult child, yes, you should, because it's not logical to continue to be involved with somebody that's causing problems for you. Just because you are of biology together, that doesn't mean that you're obligated to remain involved with them. What does this mean? Give the child up for adoption? No, you can't give your child away. Well, you can, but I'm not talking about an infant child. I'm talking about an adult child. This is crazy talk. Well, your talk is crazy. And on this point, I watched an interview on another channel. You were being interviewed, where you explained the whole seed and soil analogy of how a narcissist is created. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. So then I ask you, can't a person water the seed correctly and not create the narcissist child? Yes. That's ensuring that the child isn't exposed to a lack of control environment. Please expand on this in relation to what you mean when you say go no contact with a child. I mean that where you have a child that you don't have a legal responsibility for anymore, i.e. either above 16 or 18 or 21, whatever it is in the relevant jurisdiction in which you live, it is not logical to continue to be involved with a narcissist, because that narcissist is only ever going to cause you problems. Therefore, you impose no contact against them by staying out of the 5 arenas as you would do with any other narcissist. Of course, your emotional thinking will try and prevent that by attacking your traits of caring, compassion and honesty based upon you can't do this because they're your child, but you mustn't think of them as your child. You have to think of them as the narcissist. Linda Anderson, HG, I love your honesty. You are awesome. Indeed. Thank you. Give my regards to Mr. Anderson. Jean Everson, thank you for answering my question. You're welcome. You said that a mid-range narcissist who hurts, abuses, kills pets to hurt the empath is sadistic. It's a sadistic streak. Yes. My next questions are regarding when that empath tells the mid-range sadistic narcissist over and they're done and moving on. Is that empath in more danger of being killed? Not necessarily so. When the narcissist sadistic mid-ranger makes threats to kill and bury them, especially when the narcissist rages saying they get away with a crime of passion while holding a loaded... It seems to stop there. Is there some more? Oh, there we are. Loaded shotgun. Or is it still most likely the narcissist threatening them so as to keep control? Well, in that situation, there is a considerable risk with somebody pointing a gun at you. What you need to listen to save my breath at this juncture are the videos. Why the narcissist wants you dead and the narcissist and threats. You'll get your answers there. Laura Cox. Hello, HG. I hope you're excellent well. I certainly am. I've been reviewing my previous romantic relationships. Okay. Do you do that on a Sunday afternoon? Put on some relaxing wind chime or panpipe music as you settle down with a mug of cocoa and review those previous romantic relationships? I'm picturing the scene. An ex-romantic partner has several close friends who I strongly suspect are narcissists. Assuming I am correct, does this raise the chances that my ex-partner is also a narcissist? No, not necessarily at all. They could be an empath surrounded by narcissists. Use the narc detector. Rumpelstiltskin, 24. Could you break down the percentage of types of empaths, class cadre hybrids, you've come across doing your detectors? Is there any that are more rare or peaked? It's not P-E-A-K-E-D, it's P-I-Q-U-E-D, your interest. Basically, I can tell you that when it comes to the breakdown of school, and remember, with the empath detector, nobody's 100% of any school. You're a mix of different schools. But, that stated, most people have a majority school. Sometimes they're a hybrid, but usually they're a majority. Dealing with those that are a majority, the most common outcome is standard, followed by codependent, and then super and contagion are the rarest. With regard to cadre, most common ones are carrier and saviour. Less so magnet. Geezer are fairly common. Magnet are rarer. That's essentially the way that it would break down. Okay, Cool Mango 0 poses this question. Hi HG, my question. My narc ex had said, I am narcissistic, and described himself as grandiose, boundary pusher, etc. I once jokingly told him, you're so manipulative. To which he laughed and responded, yes, I am. That's why everyone follows me. It sounds like he knows what he is, which means he must be a greater or above, since lessers and mid-rangers aren't self-aware. However, you mentioned before that a greater narc would not admit being one. What's your opinion on this, HG? Well, Cool Mango 0, you're making the classic mistake that many people do by failing to understand that somebody who talks in such terms is a mid-ranger, most likely, possibly lesser, but more likely to be a mid-ranger, whereby their narcissism allows the admission of being manipulative in order to assert control over you in that moment and draw fuel, but it's not a genuine admission. Why? Well, that type of individual believes that they are consciously manipulative, and they believe, for example, that they're some master puppeteer. But believe me, if you were to cross-examine that individual to give you actual evidence of such Machiavellian behaviour with outcome, they get rather vague, and they're basically bullshitting. I've had this with numerous people who come along and email me, and they consult with me. HG, I'm like you. No, you're not. And it's quite simple that what I'm able to do through cross-examination is unearth the fact that they haven't consciously manipulated anybody. They may well have manipulated people instinctively in the usual way and unconsciously in their relationship, but they haven't sat down and come up with some master plan. They just believe that they can because their mid-range narcissism causes them to believe that they are greater than they actually are. The typical situation of the mid-ranger who would be king. And again, the greater the ultra doesn't go around in their private life saying to people, hi, I'm narcissistic, and I'm grandiose, and yes, I'm so manipulative, because that's what a moron would do. It's a transference of power. So he doesn't know what he is. It's likely that he was a mid-range narcissist who would be king. Mama G. Hey there, Mama G. Evening, sir. I had a chuckle when you said you had a crochet website. What's so funny about that? Crocheting is the future. I was actually crocheting and listening then. Wow. Let's crochet together sometime, Email me. Let's hook up over crochet. I found you during what I now think was the beginning of my devaluation. Perhaps I'll take your empath quiz soon, now that I'm pretty sure I understand more of my situation. Well, if you haven't done so already, you ought to do so. SB, Sabah, Sb. Always enjoy listening to your videos. It's addictive. Thank you. Can I ask? Well, it should be, may I ask? I know that you can, but whether I'll give you permission is another matter. What is someone who has very high narcissistic traits, but also highly empathic? Well, in those situations, if that person is an empath, and they're likely to be so, their empathic traits are stronger than their very high narcissistic traits. So they're still an empath, but their empathic traits shield their narcissistic traits and will keep them in check. Brittany K. I have said it to myself since hearing how much HG dislikes mid-range. I really, really, really wish I could see HG go head-to-head with my father's wife, mid-range type B. You probably wouldn't want to see it. It would be particularly unpleasant. But for the right fee, who knows? Maybe we should have a discussion about that. CJK, yes, more. Thank you, HG Tudor. Love this. CJK, how many times have I told you not to disclose when we're engaging in the beast with two backs in a public forum? You naughty scoundrel. It's not really appropriate at all. And at this juncture, I'm going to have to break off from informing all of these magnificent viewers about narcissism and my life to come and correctively devalue you. So, I know where you live. I can get a helicopter my way over there now, and you'll be saying, no more. I'm ever so sorry, H.G. Tudor. I love you, but I thoroughly deserve this corrective devaluation that you're meting out against me. I'm so sorry, my liege. What can I do? So you better start bracing yourself. There's no point running. I've got a tracker attached to you. I'll just turn on the old Tudor detector here. There we are. Beep. It's fired up. You're showing on screen. I'm on my way. The rest of you, don't go anywhere. Part 8, coming right at you.